Well, hello there and good day. Thank you so much for joining me at Dystopian Report, the place where we talk about the nightmare world we found ourselves in. I'm your host, Jesse Pullman, and today is March 31st, and I'm making this about 2 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today we're going to be talking about the White House Correspondents Association dinner, the First Amendment, and the perils of self-censorship. First things first, what is the White House Correspondents Association dinner? The White House Correspondents Association is exactly what it sounds like insofar as it's an organization of journalists who work in and around the White House. Think of it like a First Amendment organization mixed a little bit with a union. They're supposed to stick together in the event that one of them is bullied, that sort of thing. Their dinner is an annual event they put on usually, but not always, in conjunction with the President of the United States. It's become famous for a tradition of inviting a comedian to lead in the proceedings, a comedian who roasts all the principal leaders in the country, including the president. And are you with me so far? The idea is to celebrate that in America, a comedian can make fun of the president in public, and the president just has to sit there and laugh about it. It keeps in faith with the very First Amendment that they thought to give us in the Bill of Rights: free speech, free press, free association, and other freedoms as well. Let's check on how that event is shaping up this year. So here we have the White House Correspondents Association website. It's talking about a motion they filed in the federal AP case. That's the case where the Associated Press didn't want to call it the Gulf of America, because it's not. Because it's the Gulf of Mexico and has been since before there's been in America. And yeah, maybe they should all have stuck together on that one, but you know, let's see how they're doing now. Oh look, they canceled their plans to have a comedian headline the annual dinner. This is by Brian Stelter, who's supposed to be a pretty famous CNN person, if I recall correctly. I thought he was fired at one point, but maybe I'm thinking of someone else. They go through people there. You know, because CNN has no journalistic integrity. Anyway, they talk about how at this consequential moment for journalism, I want to ensure the focus is not on the politics of division, but entirely on awarding our colleagues for their outstanding work and providing scholarship and mentorship to the next generation of journalists. So basically, instead of having a comedian, they're going to celebrate the First Amendment and the free press. If you're listening to this, you can probably hear my very disappointment, and if you're looking at me, you can definitely see my very disappointment. Let's dig deeper. Yahoo. They say the headliner was already scheduled, so this isn't a shift from we're not following tradition, we're going to do something different this year, to we were following tradition. We've decided, after hiring a named person, to cancel that person's appearance. Canceling, I feel like that's something comedy used to talk about all the time. Amber Ruffin, to ensure the focus is not on the politics of division. Now, this is your exercise for the day in thinking about how different media outlets pursue things, because the Rupert Murdoch-owned New York Post says the White House Correspondents Association canceled anti-Trump comedian from hosting. I think it's trying to play a video, so I'm just going to close this window. But anti-Trump comedian. Amber Ruffin's an anti-Trump comedian. Isn't that interesting? They canceled an anti-Trump comedian to celebrate the First Amendment. That's kind of weird, right? One of the first videos we made on this channel when we were establishing the themes of the Dystopian Report aspect of it was that you have to stand up for what you believe in. This is a move concealed as standing up for what you believe in that really reeks of cowardice. I'm sorry to say it. I'm just not proud of the state of journalism in this country. And I did hyper-local journalism, if I can say the word correctly, for 5 years. Once a week, I would put out a weekly Freeporter. I barely made any money. I never made back what I put into it. And I just kind of did my own thing. Some things I did I'm embarrassed of as a young journalist. Other things I'm very proud of. Without independent journalists, you wouldn't have the reporting that we had from the Hurricane Sandy event in 2012. That, you know, my friend and I did. We went down to Freeport and we looked around and we toured the damage the day after, and there were still fires burning. Anyway. So if you can't tell, I'm a little personally offended by the fact that these journalists are doing this, because they're claiming they're going to celebrate the First Amendment. But you celebrate the First Amendment by honoring the tradition that you've been celebrating the First Amendment in for years now. So to change that up based on who the president is a terrible precedent. Not president, precedent. For just the way this country is going. I know I sound like an old man yelling at a cloud there for a minute, but listen. The bottom line is you can't do that and not expect to get called out on it. So I'm calling out the White House Correspondents Association. Not the first time I've called them out, but the first time I'm calling them out on this channel. Do better. Because our democracy depends on people like you. Because if this seems like a small, isolated case, think of what I just said about how I was a journalist on the ground doing stuff. If they're going to silence the First Amendment rights of the White House Correspondents Association, or if they're going to self-censor themselves and not proactively fight for their values, well, what's that say to the little journalists out there who are in journalism school or are doing their first beat, who are going, hey, I don't feel supported here. I feel like I could get thrown in the back of a van by some guys with masks and fake badges. Kind of matters. It seems petty. These events are often seen as petty, and I get why. But they serve a purpose. And when those warning signs start going off that those purposes aren't being served, you have something to be afraid of in that country. This is America in 2025. March of 2025. March 31st. It's about 1:53. By the time I get this all slapped up together, it'll be about 2 a.m. It's almost like I am okay at this. I want to thank you all so much for joining me. If you found this video helpful, do the number one thing you can do, which is subscribe to the channel. We're growing. We're trying to reach 75. We're trying to reach 100. If we can reach 100 by the end of the year, I'll be stunned. Hopefully I'm way off, but I'm realistic too. Thank you all so much for joining me. If you found the video helpful, subscribe, like it, comment, leave a comment, let me know what you think. Thank you all so much for joining me, and as always on this channel, pieces. And yes, that was a one-shot.